the salary arrears and promotional arrears is that we're going to pay over a 3-year period.
Federal Executive Council moves to pay debts owed to contractors and employees.
Enforce environmental laws and town planning guidelines to check flooding. Federal government tells states and local governments.
And Supreme Court ends PDP leadership tussle, rules in favor of Ahmed McAfee faction.
The Supreme Court is correct. There's nowhere else to go. What it means is that the party must go back, put its house in order.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on the People's Democratic Party post-Supreme Court judgment.
All right. It's, of course, obvious that the SY ruling party in Nigeria did not find transiting from power to opposition easy or seamless, as it has been faced with myriads of issues.
Quite right, Claire. Now, before the party could recover from the shock of losing the presidential election, several governorship positions, as well as its majority in the National Assembly, to the newly formed All Progressives Congress, the PDP was faced with a leadership crisis that lingered for a long while.
Kingsley, a tussle that, of course, began like a normal, political disagreement or differences, and power struggle to control the party gradually grew and defied all political solutions. Of course, that led to a series of court cases that reached the apex court.
And as you very well recall, Claire, there were a number of suits in various jurisdictions. And political analysts at some point thought that the intervention of former President Goodluck Jonathan could have led to a political situation, a political solution rather, where the several warring factions could, as it were, compromise and then reach a consensus. But that certainly was not to be, as both factions, that's McAfee, as well as the Sheriff-led factions, continue to maintain their respective positions.
Well, Kingsley, you know, there was so much talk about a political solution which would have led to a win-win situation for both parties.
Both factions.
Both factions, I beg your pardon. But that didn't happen. And, of course, as usual, a court judgment, will make one party a winner and leaves the other loser. But this is often seen as not very good, of course, for any political party. Of course, as the saying, the common saying that a house divided against itself will never stand. It's bound to collapse.
Oh, well, that's the saying. And I'm sure yesterday the political leaders were already saying that, look, no victor, no vanquished. But we do know what the issues are when you go to court in Nigeria. And a decision is reached, as we have seen in this particular case. Now, the judgment by the Supreme Court yesterday has generated quite some divergent views and also raised questions over the capacity or the ability of the PDP to quickly get over the leadership crisis that it had suffered for well over a year now, and now play the role expected of it as an opposition party in a democratic setting.
All right. Now that there is a winner and a loser in the tussle, the questions to ask will be, will the loser eat the humble pie and submit to the winner towards making the party what it used to be? Or will the winner be magnanimous and embrace the loser? What should be the next step for the party? That's, of course, the PDP. And how will party reconciliation begin and forge ahead? Are the insinuations that both factions had plans B, which includes dumping the party for a new one if the court outcome did not favor either of them? Is it going to play out?
Questions, Clay, and questions, many more questions. Fortunately, we're going to have on the program later in our discussion segment our guests who will seek to provide answers to these questions. And as you very well know, politics and the platforms that politicians use to play their trade often can be quite shifty. But we saw PDP rule Nigeria for 16 years, and APC, of course, has been on now for 2 years plus. But we'll be taking a look at PDP post-Supreme Court decision on Good Morning Nigeria Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to the program, reaching you as always on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's a live program.
I am Claire Delabu Abdul Razak, and as always, we're always very, very happy to have you join us on the program. It's always our pleasure. In the course of the program, we have our usuals, including newspaper review. We'll bring talking business in a short while, sports, foreign, arts and entertainment. Of course, we'll be taking the rare. But right now, let's see what news are trending, of course, in the national press. Ogwa Vivian Onyedibia is our guide. Ogwa. Good to see you. It rained cats and dogs, as we normally say.
Honestly, the rain was, and I woke up as early as 3 a.m. with the thunder and lightning, and I've not been able to close my eye. Well, I'm here now. Good morning, Kingsley.
Please don't close your eyes,
Welcome to the news desk. The Federal Executive Council has approved a proposed process to validate and pay inherited federal government contractors and employees' liabilities. The validation process and promissory note and debt program is to resolve decades of outstanding federal government obligations to contractors, state governments and employees.
Everything. And that's what was brought to the Federal Executive Council today. What's going to happen with the salary arrears and promotional arrears is that we're going to pay over a 3-year period. Because the amount of money is quite significant, so we need to take it over 3 years. That includes military pension board, monies owed to PENCOM, monies owed to police pensioners under PATAD, promotional arrears, and I think 28 days. There's an allowance that is paid for 28 days for civil servants. And the reason is that we're trying to move the economy forward. We've plugged a lot of the loopholes, and we're saying to the civil servants, you've got to live on your salary. If you say that, then you have to pay them what, you're legally obliged to pay them.
So the federal government is asking states and local governments across the federation to put first-place enforcement of environmental laws and town planning guidelines to check uncontrolled fiscal development activities. This is coming on the heels of the devastating flooding being experienced across the country.
Summary of the alert is that approximately 30 states and 100 LGAs are categorized as high flood risk areas and therefore could expect flooding.
Meanwhile, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has approved the release of 1.6 billion naira's immediate intervention for the victims of flood in 16 states of the country. Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, announced this while briefing newsmen after meeting at the Federal Executive Council presided over by the acting president.
The money is going to be taken from the federal government ecology account at the Central Bank of Nigeria. And the Minister of Finance is to release the funds direct to NEMA, which is National Emergency Management Agency.
Well, away from that, there is the indication that President Muhammadu Buhari will soon return to the country from the UK, where he's receiving medical attention. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo, while interacting with State House Press Corps on his visit to the UK, says the president is fast recuperating.
To check up on him, find out how he was doing. I had, of course, been speaking to him on the phone, and I thought it would be a good thing to go and see him and, generally check up on how he was doing, and also to brief him on developments back at home. So we had a very good time, had a very good conversation on wide-ranging issues, and he's in very good spirits. He's recuperating very quickly, and he's doing very well.
The acting president Tuesday afternoon made a short visit to the president in the UK and returned to the country in the early hours of Wednesday. The Senate has given another ultimatum to government agencies to present their appropriation reports in line with the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007. This is the third time the highest legislative body is given such ultimatum.
Today is the 12th of July, midway into the year. we are yet to officially receive the budget proposals for the agencies listed in this schedule.
Many of these parastatals and agencies does not have any board or existing board to approve these budgets.
And still on the legislature, the House of Representatives has adopted a motion calling for protection of persons who testify before the National Assembly. The motion followed the suspension of the Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf.
Some time ago, we had to take we did a motion where we were going to look at the activities of the scheme vis-a-vis their relationship and activities of the health maintenance organizations. And we are still on that assignment. And the public hearing that we had on the 21st and 22nd was a part of that investigative activity. And he came, all the critical stakeholders in the health sector were there. We were looking at that, we're still looking at that. Just 1 week after, he was suspended for reasons we don't know.
And on the political scene, the Supreme Court on Wednesday upheld the Port Harcourt Convention of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, which dissolved the Senator Ali Modu Sharif's executive committee and constituted the Ahmed Makarfi Caretaker Committee. The verdict by the nation's apex court ended the more than a year of litigation between the two factions.
The Supreme Court is correct. There's nowhere else to go. What it means is that the party must go back, put its house in order, work as a team, and help the work of national growth.
Nigerians want PDP to be truly an opposition party. There's no democracy without opposition.
Meanwhile, PDP senators have expressed delight over the declaration of Ahmed Makarfi as the authentic chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Following a point of order raised by Senator Emmanuel Boacha, Taraba South, the lawmaker called on PDP members in diaspora to come back and rebuild the party.
I believe we must all pursue, we must all overtake, and must all recover. Briefly let Nigerians know, and all PDP faithfuls, and all lovers of democracy across the nation, that a monumental event has happened today in our dear country.
All of us to celebrate this judgment. It is not victory for PDP, it is victory for democracy.
And that's the news for now. Claire and Kingsley will be back after this break. Good morning.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Kingsley, time to talk business?
Absolutely. The federal government, of course, is collaborating with the private sector to develop indigenous products and technology. Plus, banks are seeking to raise dollar spending by 900%. Details of this stories we have from our correspondent, Joy Uzo.
What did happen
Hello and welcome to Business News. Federal government agencies will work with the private sector to support research with a view to developing high-quality indigenous products and technologies. The Minister for Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma, disclosed this to members of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, this week. A statement signed by media advisor to the minister, Pandem James, disclosed that Udoma, in a keynote address at the annual general meeting and 60th anniversary of NECA in Lagos, which focused on the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, said government is committed to supporting made-in-Nigerian goods and services and is working vigorously on policies that will enable the achievement of the goals set out in the ERGP. In this direction, the minister said government believes strongly in working together with all sectors of the economy, adding that the ERGP needs the active participation of all for it to achieve its ambitious goals. Support in transforming the nation's economy. As Nigeria joins the world to commemorate World Population Day 2017, experts are advocating provoked strategies that would bring the nation's population growth under control. They say demographic dividend is the way to go if Nigeria must grow our economy like the Asian tiger and the most populous nations of the world. Assistant Country Representative of the United Nations Population Fund and Chairman National Population Commission believe that there was a need for Nigerians to contribute more than what they gain from the economy.
Structure the population in such a way that those who are producing are more than those who are consuming. It has happened elsewhere. That's the strength of the Asian tigers, and we think that it can be provoked in Nigeria, and that can happen.
If more people are contributing to the economy than people taking, it means that there is some saving in the economy, and that saving can translate to development. That is what the whole thing is all about. So China and India went through that experience, and today they are enjoying the benefits.
Experts say poor family planning habits have ballooned the country's population to 191.89 million, making it the country with the 7th highest number of people in the world. There is something to cheer for bank customers traveling abroad, as commercial banks have raised customers' international dollar spending limit on overseas point of sale, POS and online card transactions by 900%. Investigation of the report from the industry indicates the policy shift is expected to help travelers pay their hotel bills, make reservations and other transactions using their debit cards. The decision to increase the spending limit followed improved dollar liquidity in the market, triggered by the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN sustained interventions. The interventions have yielded results and reduced foreign currency pressure on many lenders. The CBN has pumped over $6 billion into key segments of the market in the last 4 months, an initiative that has strengthened the naira against the dollar. Now a quick check of how the equities market fared this Wednesday on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That's it on Business News. I am Joy Uzo.
Thank
And we have Bayo Atoyebe, of course, to do the review for us. Bayo, good to see you again.
Good morning, Claire. Thank you very much. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Kingsley, you've got the most papers.
No, well, I have only three. This the lead story for most of the papers that we have, I think with the exception of the one that you have. But the story that has come onto the front pages of the papers we have this morning, of course, has to do with the Supreme Court decision on the PDP leadership tussle. So we just go through the headlines one after the other for the various papers. The Nigerian pilot The Nigerian pilot has it as a double-decker headline. It says, PDP crisis over as Supreme Court sacks Sheriff. And it has 3 riders. Endorses McCarthy's chairmanship. Ekweremadu, mark PDP governors and leaders react. And condemns, that's the Supreme Court now, condemns Sheriff's infantile desperation to hold on to office. For Blueprint newspaper, the headline is as follows. Blueprint newspaper, again with a banner headline, At Last, McCarthy triumphs. And you have a number of busy riders there. Sheriff desperate for power, that's according to the Supreme Court. Justice at its best, that's attributed to ex-ministers. Return to fold, Jonathan urges defectors. And change on course. That's according to PDP senators. And victory won't affect our fortunes. That's attributed to the APC. For the Authority newspaper, it's still the lead story with a kicker. PDP power tussle. McCarthy floors Sheriff. And the number of riders there. Supreme Court proclaims McCarthy chairman. Jonathan Ekweremadu, Wike, Fayose, and others react. We are open to reconciliation. That's according to McCarthy. APC not threatened, says Oyego. Now, that's an excerpt there, which is like a sidebar just below that part of the headline of the Authority newspaper. It says it's on record, this is a quotation out from the Supreme Court decision. It's on record that Sheriff, in his fatal desire to perpetuate himself in office, had filed 10 cases in 1 year, some of which he abandoned, and they shall forever gather dust in the judicial archives. That's attributed to the Supreme Court.
Kingsley, some of those riders make for very interesting reading, if you ask me. I think it's only the Daily Trust, although that story enjoys a front page report, or it's not the lead story. But let me take another caption now, which of course is from the Leadership newspaper, and it says, PDP citing infantile desperation, Supreme Court sacks Sheriff. Now, listen to the riders there. It says, he fallen short to remain in office. Verdict victory for democracy. That's coming from McAfee. And then Sheriff keeps mum. Now, Jonathan, that's ex-president, preaches unity. Judgment inconsequential to us. That's coming from the ruling party, APC. It will position PDP for return in 2019. Now, this is a position that has been widely expressed by, of course, governors, ex-ministers, of the party. That's the lead story on the front page of the Leadership. But a quick look at the other story just below the nameplate. Federal government okays payment of 2.7 trillion naira contract liabilities. You can read up the details of that story on page 7. Just beneath that, PMB recuperating fast, returns soon. And that's coming from acting president. Details of that, again, you can find on page 7. But there's another story that's trending at the bottom of the paper. Restructuring only possible through constitution amendment. Restructuring only possible through constitution amendment. That is attributed to Dogara. Details of that on page 4. Let's bring in Bayo Atoyobi. Bayo, we've got our hands full with all the different captions of what transpired yesterday.
Well, already the National Caretaker Committee, led by Senator Ahmed McCarthy, had already taken over the national headquarters of the the PDP. Yes, because this followed the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, which was predicated specifically on 2 issues. And one of the issues was that the party was struggling. The party, as stipulated by the Constitution, had validly removed Senator Alimodu Sheriff as chairman of the party on his May 21st, 2016 Port Harcourt convention. The Supreme Court actually lamented that the majority judgment of the Court of Appeal of 17 February was a perverse of justice. Meanwhile, Senator Ahmed McCarthy has also called on all that he is open to reconciliation based on equity, equality, and values. He says the victory is not just for the People's Democratic Party, it is for democracy. It affirms the powers of political parties. The convention as the supreme authority of political parties. Meanwhile, former President Goodluck Jonathan has called for unity. He says the judgment shows Nigeria judiciary deserves respect and commendation. he urged party members to draw inspiration from General Yakubu Gowon's "No victor, no vanquished." He called on all those who have left the party because of the leadership issue to return to help build the party. Well, however, our hearts must go out to the people in Borno State. You recall that yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, the issue of suicide bombing, particularly in the University of Maiduguri premises and prisons, was a subject that was discussed. Only soon after that, 23 persons were killed in 4 suicide bombers who struck in Maiduguri. 7 of the persons killed were civilians, 12 others belonged to civilian JTF. The Commissioner of Police, Damian Duru, has confirmed this, and apparently they have now shifted attention from the University of Maiduguri premises to other parts of the city. So there is need for real vigilance in Maiduguri because the suicide bombing is going on ascendancy.
That's right, that's right. But yeah, that story that you just took now is there on the front page of the Authority newspaper, above the nameplate of the Authority newspaper. Authority, that you said 19 killed, that's what it's saying, 19 killed and 23 injured in Boko Haram attacks. The story is in greater detail on page 4 of the Authority newspaper. Now, 2 other headlines beside that headline is federal government to clear 2.7 trillion naira owed workers and contractors, and Burete lauds Governor Gwanye's support for Army's water project. Now, also there on the front page, below the photograph, on the front page of the Authority newspaper is Buhari in high spirits, returns soon, and that's attributed to the acting president. And very quickly, Claire, let me take other headlines from the Blueprint newspaper. Below the nameplate of the Blueprint newspaper, federal government spends $4.5 billion on steel importation annually, and this is attributed to the House of Reps. Details on page 14. Senate gives CBN, NNPC, SEC, and others 7 days to submit budgets. That's on page 9. Floods. Oshibajo orders release of 1.6 billion naira to 16 states. Senate to federal government, take over Lautech now. And Hajj 2017, we can't control exchange rate. That's according to the National Hajj Commission, that's NACON, that's on page 9. Also there on the front page, of course, you have at the foot of the front page, below the photograph, on the front page, you have 2 other headlines. One on the president, that's Buhari recuperating fast to return soon, again attributed to Oshibajo, and Sean's reps on ministers designate. Now, there's the last headline there. It says Nigeria begins exportation of refined petroleum in 2020. That's 2.5 years from now.
All right, are you done, Kinsley?
Yes, I'm done with
all right, let's focus on Daily Trust now. Daily Trust has the lead story, what Buhari or Shimbajo discussed in London. That's the lead story. You want to find out details of that, you can go to page 5 for the continuation, and you can see the picture story taking the front page there. A little below the nameplate, why we ended Intel's monopoly by MPA MD, also trending on the front page. Now, how McAfee defeated Sharif at Supreme Court, you can find the details of that on page 35. Reps demand recall of suspended NHIS boss, it's on page 3. And federal government okays 2.7 trillion naira for pensioners, contractors, and others. And of course, Kingsley and Bayer, you recall that the presidency also ordered release of 1.6 billion naira to 15 states.
Yes, 16. Yeah, 16. That's said. But let me just before Bayer comes in, Claire, there's 2 stories here from the courts on the front page of the Nigerian Pilot newspaper. It says one below the nameplate says appeal court clears FCTA to collect entertainment tax. FCTA stands for the Federal Capital Territory Administration. That's FCTA is been cleared to collect entertainment tax. That's on page 2. And then below that, at the foot of the front page, another story on the court says on page 11 in greater detail, appeal court delivers 232 judgments in 2 weeks. Bayo.
Yes. Let's start with the issue of the debt. You recall that at the quarterly business forum, the Minister of Finance declared categorically that Nigeria's debt profile was about 19 trillion and Nigeria was saturated and will no longer take any other debt. However, in the meantime, a sum of about 2.7 trillion have been set aside by way of promissory notes to offset debts that were owed. Some of these debts, according to the minister, date as far back as 20 years ago, and they involve debts owed contractors, state governments. Others include pension liabilities and unpaid salaries of workers. In fact, it says a total of about 2.7 trillion pension and salary arrears that are accumulated over the 20 years are involved in what the federal government is issuing promissory notes and will make bold initiatives to pay. The other issue of concern is that the Court of Appeal, the first appellate after the High Court, has set a record. It had delivered 232 judgments in 2 weeks. How did they do that? The president of the Court of Appeal, Zainab Bukachua Justice, set up 5 state task forces, and these task forces took up cases. The Lagos division sat in Maiduguri and disposed of 85 cases. The one in Ilorin sat at Benin, disposed of 57 cases. The Ekiti own worked at Enugu to dispose 38, while the one in Sokoto disposed of 31 cases that when it sat Abuja. The one in Yola sat at Port Harcourt and handled 21 cases. This is to ensure that they attain this before they go on the vacation. Meanwhile, the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says President Buhari is very much in good spirit. He's recuperating fast, and his humor is still there because he spoke with him over 1 hour. There have been other speculations. Governor of Ekiti says it is the contrary. And if you follow the sequence, the first to bring information about his fast rating was Dr. Oju Zokalu. And only last week, Mrs. Aisha Buhari says the animals' prayers have been answered, which was an indication that he was recuperating. So choose who to believe between Pastor Professor Yemi Osinbajo and whoever is saying something contrary. However, along the speculations.
Bayo, thanks a lot. It's happy news that the president is recuperating fast. I mean, if anybody breaks down, of course, the wish is for him or her to get well pretty fast. And in this case, it's happy news once again. Bayo Atoyebi, thank you for being with us today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you too.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing the PDP on the heels of the Supreme Court decision sacking Amodu Sharif.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. Not be only to connect lights. Come you and yourself now. Now wow. Oh boy, come down now. Oga Kasali electrician, who would they look for with this? Oh, Oga Kasali. Come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy. Letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from over.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, let's kickstart our conversation this morning. You already know our topic for today, but if you've just joined us, just for a reminder, we're looking at PDP post-Supreme Court judgment. But before we meet our guests here today, let's take this background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi to set the ball rolling.
May 29, 2015 is not only recognized as the day the country's baton of leadership changed from the hand of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, APC, as well as the election that changed PDP from the status of the ruling party to that of the opposition party. But it will also go down memory lane as the genesis of the tussle at the PDP. The loss of the presidential election to the APC orchestrated the resignation of the party's national chairman, Adamu Muazu, who had earlier promised to resign if his party loses the election. The mantle of leadership shifted to the then national vice chairman, Uche Secondus, in the capacity of an acting chairman. The zoning formula of the party, however, raised questions in the leadership. Consequently, top PDP stalwarts met and Alimadu Sheriff was brought in with a mandate of organizing party convention to elect new leadership. A parallel convention was held in Port Harcourt by some state governors and the party leaders, where Senator Ahmed McCarthy emerged as the leader of the party's caretaker committee. Alimadu Sheriff had earlier opposed the Port Harcourt convention and called for dialogue to settle the issue of leadership. He called for the dissolution of the convention and sued the leadership that emerged therefrom. This led to a series of court cases with appeals and counter-appeals until the matter reached the Supreme Court. The tussle in the party lingered on for so long, with efforts of party members to broker peace proving abortive. Not even the intervention of the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, was good enough to resolve the impasse, as Alimadu Sheriff angrily stormed out of the peace meeting. However, the long-awaited Supreme Court judgment ruled in favor of the Senator Ahmed McCarthy, upholding him as the party's national chairman while upholding the Port Harcourt Party Convention. Now that the last bus stop of judgment has been reached, the question now is what next? Will the Alimadu Sheriff faction swallow their pride and walk hand in glove with the McCarthy faction? Or will the Senator McCarthy faction be magnanimous in victory and make the party an all-inclusive one? These are some of the issues today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria shall be answering shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background report. Now, as we indicated, we have guests with us here in the Abuja studios, as well as another guest joining us from one of our national network centers. First, we would like to, at this time, welcome to our studios Chief Olabode George. He was at some point the national vice chairman, southwest of the PDP, before becoming its deputy national chairman. Chief Bode George, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
My pleasure, too.
Okay. And then we also have with us here in the studios the distinguished Senator Abubakar Sodengi. Distinguished Senator, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay. And also here with us, of course, we have another guest.
We have Mr. Godwin Sunday Wuji, and he's a public affairs analyst. Mr. Wuji, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And of course, from our JOS Network studio, we'll be joined by Professor Audu Bako. Professor Bako is a professor of political science at the University of Jos. Professor Bako, good to have you with us.
Pleasure. Thank you. Pleasure.
Kingsley.
All right, so let's begin with Chief Bode George. Of course, his full name is Chief Olabode George. For quite a while, the PDP was, as some persons would say, in the news for the wrong reasons. But that seemed to have changed yesterday following the decision of the Supreme Court, together, of course, with the reactions that have come on the heels of that decision. But what does this mean? That's to say, the decision now for the People's Democratic Party.
Now, we thank God that we had come to the end of the legal tussle. The next thing will be to rebuild the party and make sure that all those who are aggrieved, including those of our friends who left because they were absolutely dissatisfied with what was going on, we must get everybody back. let's reconstruct, redesign, and go back to the tenets as laid down by the founding fathers. They're still there. And I have a very strong belief that we will come out very quickly within the next 2 weeks on the programs of the way forward. You know, we can't just jump into the array again without making sure we tidy all the loose corners. And I have no doubt in my mind that we're lucky, because I've been in government for 16 years. We had the experiences of governance, and those who brought us to the situation up till yesterday would also realize that the most important thing to do in a political organization is to have a very, very strict respect for the rule of law. The constitution of any party you are is sacrosanct. And so it was an experience for us. You know, when you are cruising for many years in charge of government, in charge of so many things, we tend to forget. It happens to everybody in the world. But thank God we ran into a bump, and that bump woke us all up.
All right,
it was a wake-up call.
Okay, let's pause for a while, Chief, and bring in Senator Abubakar Sedenge, who also, you know, former senator of the Republic, Federal Republic. Let's look at the value of this judgment, because a lot of people have described it as it's victory for Nigeria. Yeah, it's victory for democracy. You know, it's a victory for constitutionality and arbitrariness. That's quoting the ex-president now. So what does it mean for our democracy?
Thank you very much, my sister. Like the elder have said, it's a lesson to all the political parties. And in every given situation, an association is governed by its constitution. And here we are, like he said, PDP had ruled this country for 16 years before they were oozed out in 2015. When they went for their convention, instead of them to go with the tenets of their constitution, some said no, they would never abide by that. And that impunity was the order of the day in reckless abandon by the PDP. I'm a victim. I'm speaking as a witness. I was there in 2011. I was shortchanged. I loved everything. 2015, the same thing. I even loved the party. Before even this crisis, I left when Adamu left. The Constitution said the finality of every decision lies with the convention. And when the convention took place in Port Harcourt, there were two gentlemen that went to court. Don't hold this election, especially with these two of our offices, because we've just been elected. They say, okay, we are not going to hold that election. Or generally, they have even postponed the election. And then they say that same convention say, okay, we have constituted a caretaker committee, which is the finality. Even in a company, when the annual general meeting took a decision, it's binding on all members. And then some people say, no, we don't agree. That's what brought about this 14 months of lingering, and that almost sent everybody packing in PDP. At the end of the day, they went to court, and I'm happy. The lesson that had been taught is that, like everybody had been saying, the court is the last court, not only of a common man, even of enlightened and troublesome political shooters and leaders who don't believe in doing the same according to what the tenant of their constitution have said, or in our constitution, but they believe in impunity, they believe in imposition, they believe that they can do it, they're playing God. What the court have done is not even to save the PDP, to come back to its limelight, if it can, and bring in the people, but all political parties, 40 of them that were existing and 5 that have been added, that they should play this game with decorum, with the tenant and every Nigerian. My dear sister, what is happening is that people don't believe that God gives power. They believe they are money, they believe they are godfatherism, whatever they call it, and that's what we have found ourselves.
Okay,
So,
let's hold it for a while.
Thank you.
Mr. Buji, do you think that... Kisley, you want to...
No,
okay.
let's
do you think that what has happened yesterday, the judgment of the Supreme Court, will it now, make for a clearer democratic process, among political parties?
Of course. That is why some of us are very excited as a legal practitioner, because before now, when the convention was slated for Port Harcourt, that decision for the convention was taken by the National Executive Committee of PDP, which Amadou Sharif was part and parcel of. So when they went for the convention, Amadou Sharif alone stood up and said the convention will not hold again. So if the decision had gone otherwise, that means would have been a serious crisis in the country, because party as it is would have been abrogated. Party will now resolve around just one person alone, which is the national chairman. Because now the NEC have taken a decision, a national chairman pulled out and was saying that is what's supposed to be. No, that cannot be. Because the decision was taken by the enlarged body of the National Executive Committee, which are part and parcel of. I'm not sure you never say that the Port Harcourt Convention was not taken by a NEC. It was agreed upon that a convention should be held in Port Harcourt, where he presided over. Now, because the underlying and underplay of politics, high-wire politics as we call it in Nigeria, was obvious to him that he might not be re-elected, he opted out.
This seems to have given NEC, the National Convention now, more recognition.
Of course, because that is what is in the law of all parties, that the National Convention is the final body of the party. So for him to come and say, I'm not part and parcel of it again, should not stop the convention. That is why Section 35 of the PDP Constitution expressly said that in the event that the national chairman cannot, let's not just say he abandoned, cannot preside over the meeting, the deputy national chairman presides over that. And that is why in every organization of society, you have leadership rules spelled out so that there can be a vacuum and there shouldn't be a vacuum. But be that as it may, I'm very happy that it happened to PDP the way it happened to them. Yes, the elders of PDP are not saying it. Can you imagine where somebody did not even want to contest for the position of chairmanship? People were there on the ground and bought forms and said they want to be chairman of party. The party left all those people and went and invited somebody that was sleeping in his house to come and take over the party, and then want to use him, do you want to use him? He got so, for whatever it is worth, I was happy Modu Sharif gave them the headache he gave them, so that at the end of the day, impunity will be lessened and we will go by the laws. There's no rule in PDP that says if you don't have it is absurd that I'm not a staff of MTA because all of a sudden they say two of you are not competing again. I'm sleeping somewhere. You come and say I should come and present. Why will I not give problems if I can? So it's very good for PDP, and this is a sign of one to all political parties. Work according to your laws. I might not be competent. You might not like my face, but give me the position if I have indicated interest. Not somebody that have no willingness or desire to be chairman. You brought him, and then you think I'm toy him and play with him. It doesn't work that way.
So PDP brought this upon itself.
Of course.
That's right. Mr. Gordon Obuji, thank you very much. Yeah, let's go over now to our Just Network studios, where we allow introduce Professor Gumbo. He's Professor of Political Science at the University of Jos. Professor Gumbo at the University of Jos, of course, you'll listen to the other guests. The first question, of course, to ask is, what's your reaction to what's unfolding on the heels of the comments made by some analysts that the factional leadership crisis in the PDP was actually going to spell the death knell of the political party, but the Supreme Court decision would appear to be a new lifeline. What is your thought?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley. I think the Supreme Court judgment of yesterday has finally cured PDP of its life-threatening disease, because one could see clearly PDP was drifting, and how it was going to reverse itself was something that one can only imagine. And so when the Supreme Court pronounced the McCarthy-led faction as the recognized and the legitimate, leadership of PDP, I think it was a welcome relief. And I think that PDP as a party must have learned its lesson in a very bitter way, because this is a party that has ruled this country for 16 years, and from nowhere they lost election to an opposition party, and instead of reflecting on what has gone wrong. Where did we get it wrong? They started, intra-party fights, intra-party feuds, and I think so many people have left the party on account of that. People use that as an excuse, to defect from PDP to the ruling APC party, and I think that it's a big minus for the party. Yes, we are not saying that you don't expect this kind of contradiction in a political party, because every political party has a life of its own, and therefore for PDP to allow the crisis, to get to this stage, I think the party has invariably undermined the foundation upon which, the founding fathers founded the party in 1998.
All right. Well, stay with you, Professor Gumbo. You just talked earlier now that PDP has been rescued, as it were, from a life-threatening disease. But what, from your perspective, are the likely prospects? Does a court decision necessarily mean reconciliation? Will it spell, for instance, a win-win, as some persons have also suggested, or will the anger, disaffection continue to linger?
I think, to me, the most critical task before PDP now, after the Supreme Court verdict, is for the party to set up what I call reconciliation committee. And the committee must be composed of men of honor and integrity, people who have the interests of the party at heart, and people who are experienced enough in promoting this kind of reconciliation, because so many people have left the party. How they are going to win them back to the party is a major task one is waiting to see. And then secondly, even as it is now, there are some aggrieved members who are still in the party, but I'm sure they are just there in name. Their spirit is somewhere else. Because of the love perhaps they have for the party, they are still in the party. Otherwise, they would have left just like others have done. And therefore, I expect that men of honor and integrity in PDP must come together, strategize, and see how they can promote, reconciliation. And I think that this judgment should not be viewed as a win-lose verdict. It should be a win-win for the party, because it has rescued the party from a life-threatening disease, like I said earlier. And therefore, all of them must collectively be involved in the task of reconstructing the party, in the task of rebuilding the party, and in the task of upholding the values of a political party. And what I mean by that, the value of internal democracy within the party. A party is not run on the basis of personal whims and caprices of an individual. It has its constitution, and therefore at all times it must be guided by that constitution, so that whatever action it takes at least is predicated on the constitution of the party and can be said to be legitimate. And so I expect that PDP, men of goodwill in PDP must come together in order to rebuild the party before 2019. Otherwise, I can see a disunited PDP in 2019 that can hardly make any impact, can hardly threaten, the current APC party.
All right, thank you, Prof. Let's get back to the studio. And just before we get back to Chief, let me speak with the Senator. So, you've listened to Professor Gumbo.
Yeah.
Members of the party have always described the seemingly intractable tussle as a family affair. But we know what happens when a family takes its matter to the court. It leaves in its wake bitter pills. Now, we've also listened to the faction of Modu Sharif say that, look, whatever the court decision is, that he would abide or comply with it. But there have been several court cases. Might there be a hidden agenda on option B, as have been variously insinuated, or will this put pay to the whole issue?
Thank you very much. Before I answer or attempt to answer your question, let me clear an impression created by my colleague that elders of the PDP. I am no more in the PDP. I'm a new brand APC member in the last 1 year or so, because the same impunity imposition sent me out of PDP. As Adamu Madu was living, I also lived. That's the impression. Number two, yes, like we've both been conversing, if there's sincerity of purpose, if the PDP leadership are really out to go back to the founding fathers' thinking and vision of moving this country forward and enshrining true values of democratic institutions like we've seen in other climate, US, whatever, they must bury their ego. It must be me or my son or that man and the rest of them. Number two, like has been said by the professor, they must go by the tenet of the constitution of the party. And let them not play to the gallery, okay, yes, we have lost this election, we are not going to go with you. McCarthy should have a large heart, himself and all his members. Those who have left, I'm not sure I have
Do you see that happening? That's my question.
I'm not contemplating going back, personally speaking for myself, and there are many people who will not go back because once beaten, they say twice shy. So many people have been injured by PDP impunity, and I'm not sure if they have learned any lesson. If they had learned lesson, they couldn't have gotten this case lingering for 14 months. But for whatever it is worth, it is lesson to all other political parties that we should be sincere in this management of affairs of political parties. It is not your own estate, it is not your own family affairs, it is for Nigerians. And anybody who subscribe, give him a level playing ground and let a popular candidate from the ward, local government, state be given a chance, and whoever he wins, allow him. But I'm not sure if they have learned their lesson, but we look forward to see whatever they're going to manage this. The most important thing is that certainly the court have taught us a big lesson that, look, whatever you're doing, people are watching, and we are here, we would also do our own bit. That's my own belief.
All right, thank you very much, Senator Sodengi.
Yes.
Chief Bode George, first, what are your reactions to the points articulated by both Senator Sodengi and Professor Gumbo?
Let me fill in the gap here. What happened in PDP in Port Harcourt? There was a NEC meeting. I'm still a member of the Board of Trustees of the party. So, a member of NEC. Yes, you know, our law says if one member of the executive resigns, you go back to that same zone to replace him for the period of the tenure. Now, Mdu Sharif chaired the meeting, and once the NEC has approved that there should be a convention, it doesn't have to be an individual to reverse it. It has to be NEC. Mm-hmm. Now, putting the record straight, he took a form, that Sheriff, to contest. The moment, and he completed the form, returned the form, and went for screening. He has ceased to be chairman of the party. Because you can't be the judge and the jury at the same time. Now, we went to Port Harcourt. He went for clearance. He didn't succeed because he didn't have his membership card attached to the form. He didn't have the tax clearance certificate. So the screening team did not clear him. So, coming to the convention, they told him that you cannot contest. And he walked out. Having walked out of the convention, he went to have a press conference where he now declared that the convention will not hold. You see, but if he has been a long-standing member of our party, like my distinguished said there, he would have known the ropes, he would have known the rules. That took us on this wilderness journey. But for me, as a staunch member of this party, it is a lesson. You know, God didn't say you won't have tribulations. But if you have tribulations, get back to the Holy Book, read his thoughts in the book, follow what is just, what is right, and what is equitable, and you pull out. I want to convince you, my brother, because he was a very respectable, responsible senator of our party from Nasarawa. Let me tell you, you said, haven't been beaten twice shy. You cannot jump from frying pan to fire. The other political party, the APC, they are struggling to find their feet in the system. We will quickly get down to business. Yes, it was announced yesterday, no victor, no vanquished. Because in a political party, it's like a police station. You don't shut your doors. Even if you go to the police station at 3 a.m. in the morning, you meet a desk sergeant there. So political parties will have their doors wide open. We can't fight. What the lesson we have learned is the respect for the rule of law, that the Constitution is our ground norm, and that whatever is decided at the National Convention become sacrosanct.
I just want to Chief Body George,
yes.
Thanks a lot for the point you just made. But how would you react to the views expressed also by some analysts who take a historical view of the PDP since 1998
yes.
and say that the party has, as it were, moved from one crisis to the other? And that is why, according to them, virtually after every convention, after every congress, you have reconciliation committees, committee, and then you have people who are defective, but of course they get wood back. So what lessons have you learned from that historical experience? Is it the Supreme Court judgment now that is giving you this lesson?
No, it's not only Supreme Court judgment. You know, it just doesn't happen from a flash. It's a build-up. Now, all that will be the solid formation of why we should go back to the drawing board and entrench ourselves to the tenets as laid down by the founding fathers. There are rules in the party. And if you don't follow the rules, it may not be immediate reaction or an explosion, but you are gradually building up this implosion in the party. I believe we've all learned a lesson, because we should have provided an adequate and efficient opposition to the ruling government. Who are the losers? Nigerians. The common people who are not members of the party. Because good governance is not only one party. You should see the views of both sides. And what my distinguished suffered in Nasarawa, we are having a local government election in Lagos next weekend. You know, there was also a landmark judgment against the APC last Friday in Lagos, in Odiolowo local government. The chairmanship candidate that was nominated, or wasn't elected, was nominated. The fellow who wanted to contest against him took them to court that there was no primary. And because of that, the national legal officer of the APC went to court to affirm that yes, truly, there was no primary. And so they have removed the candidature of APC from the same. So you see, this country, you know, the world is now global. In 1 second, you can hear the whole news. But what is happening to us is the level of our development, our mindsets, that you alone has all the solutions to the problems of this country. It doesn't happen like that in democracy. How old are we really in democratic practice? So Rome wasn't built in a day. We will continue to build it, to repair it. Is America free out of this?
Okay.
Look at what happened with Donald Trump. America has existed for over 200 years. But he came in with his concept of being a private businessman, and he was going to run it like he was in the Trump Towers. Okay, you can see what is happening. But I have a strong belief that we will get out of it. We will get stronger, because when you go through a tribulations and you pull out of it, you are a better human being.
All right, Chief, thanks. Professor Gumbo, you've listened to Chief, but earlier on, Mr. Oboji here talked about foisting an external, person on members of the party, which, of course, Chief here corroborated, led to the journey into the wilderness. Now, but again, there are other people who said, look, if the judiciary in itself had also done the right thing, by, of course, taking note of the conflicting, judgments and all that, this wouldn't have gone this far. And so, to guard against similar, tussle among other parties, is the judiciary also complicit, and how can that, be helped out?
Very much, Claire. I think judiciary is really implicated in the PDP crisis. It became a protracted crisis partly because of the unsalutary role of the judiciary in the management of the crisis. At a point, you got conflicting judgments here and there. One court, of cognate jurisdiction recognizing this other one, and then the other recognizing the other faction. I think judiciary did not play a very constructive role in the management of the PDP, conflict at all. Otherwise, it would not have lasted this long. But having said that, I think for the PDP itself, if PDP is operating as a family, and if PDP has a constitution that should guide every member, that should define, how every member is supposed to, participate in the process, I think that such culture of discipline must be reintroduced in the party. The principle of party supremacy must be recultivated, because as it is now, it's as if it has practically collapsed, and that is why Modu Sharif can negate the decision of a national convention as an individual. I think that the culture of a political party must be reintroduced in PDP, and that is to emphasize on the principle of party supremacy. Then the culture of discipline too. I was really taken aback when the two contending factions decided to go to court. I thought that they should have used internal mechanisms to see how they can manage, their misunderstanding, how they can manage the contradiction in such a way that it will not affect the integrity of the party. But like I've said earlier, they have lost so many people to other, rival political parties. How they are going to win them back is a big task that one is waiting to see how PDP is going to engage with those, especially like Senator Sodengi has said, that he is not considering going back to that same house, at least certainly not in the near future. So how they are going to reach out to those people to win them back, to tell them that they are born again, and that all those disabilities they inflicted on them that necessitated their leaving the party, how they are going to convince them, I think it's an uphill task. I'm waiting patiently to see how it's going to be carried out.
That's right, Claire. Professor Gumbo, thank you very much. Again, we'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Still on the issue of the role of the judiciary in the PDP crisis. Well, of course, we're using judiciary in a generic sense. The Supreme Court, in its decision yesterday, actually, to use the common language, common lingo, tongue-lashed one of the factional chairmen for forum shopping. And we know what that means in law, meaning that it's like window shopping. You're going from shop to shop, you're going from court to court. But judges do not on their own file cases. It is lawyers that file cases. So what ordinarily, I mean, what lessons can we learn from this? Because look at the time wasted, look at the issues raised, you know, the time wasted, not just of the parties, but also of the judges themselves. So what lessons are there to learn from this, and how can we stave off future occurrences? Mr. Obuji.
The lessons for me, fundamentally, that our jurisprudence and our judicial law reporting have been enriched. We have now come to a conclusive decision on what a convention is and what the legislative committee of a party is, and that an individual cannot hold a party to ransom. That is very fundamental. That principle has been laid down and concrete by the Supreme Court. Then coming to the issue of people, foreign shopping, as I've said, also the fundamental decision was also, we call it a bit in law, that chief judges of courts that assign matters should endeavor to assign all political matters to a particular judge, so that the one judge will be abreast with all the matters. But it might be a bit difficult. Why do I say so? The Federal High Court, we say, is one jurisdiction, but they have divisions around the states. And you'll notice that Sheriff was in Lagos, was in Abuja, was also in Port Harcourt. So it will be very difficult for you to harness, but the Federal High Court can have one jurisdiction, fortunately for us. So as it is now, no matter how difficult it is now, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court will be in a position to say, if this matter is being assigned, please take it to the place it has started from. Like in this case, Sheriff said in Lagos.
Do you need to have that written in black and white? No, Don't judges know that the courts...
No, the point is, no, see something now. The courts, like, you have territorial jurisdiction. Sheriff filed an action in Lagos, talking about his tenure of office along with the National Secretary at that point in time, that his office, his tenure have not expired, that he can go ahead. And that is why the legal judgment was that alleged convention can go ahead, but no election to the office of the president, chairman and secretary. Then he also came to Abuja and filed on that matter entirely, and went to Port Harcourt and filed on that matter entirely. So, and they all were in the Federal High Court. And not also forget that some matters were also in the State High Courts. So it will be difficult. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court cannot assign matters in the State High Courts. So these are the issues. But as we said now, the Supreme Court have now established a decision, or have given an advice, a strong-worded advice, capturing the judgment, that this matter should be assigned to one judge. And if this is followed, that will have less tension. But you have seen that even from the decision of the Supreme Court, that Sheriff was deliberately foreign shopping to cling on to power. And they didn't miss words in saying that all these actions, over 10 suits that were instituted, were just all aimed at staying in power. And this will all now gather dust in the judicial shelf. So, as Kingsley asked, that cases are filed by lawyers know. I don't just wake up and go and file a case on behalf of Kingsley if Kingsley has not briefed me. And at any point in time, I don't know what is happening in NTA studio here. So if Kingsley brings a fact to me and I weigh and see, I might not know what is the truth. Till I file the action, it's when you respond that I'll now know, Kingsley have not told me all the facts that is supposed to be on the table. So you will not blame lawyers for filing this action based on the fact that it's what you have given to them.
Senator Sodengi, you're also a lawyer, like Godwin Obuji. What's your take on this? Before we get in, Chief
I thank you very much. Let me start by, with due respect to my learned colleague here, that cases of this nature should be assigned to a particular judge or judges. It's difficult. There are pre-election cases, and there are cases that are taking place after the election, whatever. Like we are having problem now, let's have judges that are assigned only corrupt cases, which has to do with our amendment of our constitution. That is number one. Number two, what we have seen is certainly a pointer to all of us that we must be sincere to ourselves in whatever we're doing. And let me mention here quickly that with the beauty of our judicial system is that if a judge thinks that he can collect money or do whatever he thinks he can do, there's an upper court that will say, no, what you have done is wrong, and they lambast you and they spoil your record. You may hardly go even up there. Justice Abdullahi Limau, with due respect, I must mention his name, gave a judgment in Port Harcourt and affirmed that the decision of the convention of the PDP is sacrosanct and that it stands. They went to court, Ali went to Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt. Two justices said know that what Ali Sharif has come to say, he remains a chairman, remains. And one lady said no. She agreed with Abagana, Abadwa, agreed with Jasiliman. At the end of the day, the matter came to the Supreme Court. What happened? We have seen the beauty of what our judicial system can salvage the situation. Even though Professor Gumbo said PDP was almost dying and it has been rescued, I'm not sure whether it can wake up like my leader is saying, whether it can come back to life and also salvage the situation and salvage Nigeria. But all put together, it is do I say victory for democracy, and you have to give kudos to our judicial system, particularly our appeals court, who have come to say, look, this is the true situation, and everybody, I believe, has hope in Nigerian judicial system. It is left for the political gladiators to play the game by the rule. That is the emphasis. Okay. If we do that, by the grace of God, nobody will be complaining.
Why is it that it has always been difficult for politicians to play by the rules? Why are we always having all these rough times?
I'll give you an answer quickly. People playing God, they want to come to power at all costs, and when they come to power, they don't want to be answerable to the electorate, and they want to reach themselves, and at the end of the day, that's why everybody is complaining. If Nigerian politician will play the game by the rule, and when you come to office, you know that serve Nigerian, I swear to God, Kingsley, nobody will be complaining. We have a lot, everybody that will be happy in this country if you want to play the game by the rule.
Chief Judge, could the road have been shorter if these conflicting judgments from different courts, you know?
Now, it's not a matter of being shortened. I remember very vividly that President Jonathan, former president, wanted to wade into it, to reconcile the people as the leader of the party. Mudusheri walked out. He called me and said, look, he wanted to set up a reconciliatory committee. And I told him, I said, Mr. President, until the decision is taken at the Supreme Court, don't shortcut it. And the reason is simple. Now you've said it. They were shopping, going from one court to the other.
The Supreme Court said so.
The Supreme Court. No, that's what the Supreme Court. I was there at the court yesterday. Yes. It was an observation of the Supreme Court. And they not lambasted, but there should be also some kind of punishment on the judiciary to prevent judicial rascality, or what the lawyers call the abuse of the court process. I'm not a lawyer, but I am educated.
No, judges don't abuse the court process.
That's whatever, whether it is lawyer or they are all the same lawyers become judges, isn't it? Of course.
When you have several conflicting judgments.
Yeah, on the same on the same issue.
No, not on the same issue. The facts are different. Each of the cases are different. Sheriff went to Lagos and said, the election should not be held.
Look, whether you turn it like this, or turn it to the left or turn it to the right, the real issue is the greedy man. The greedy man comes out of education, out of civics training from way back as you are growing up. Even developed countries are complaining about certain behaviors. Human behavior doesn't know ethnicity. He doesn't only think that this man is only Nigerians that do that. It's part of the education we should give to our children, that you cannot continue to disobey the rules. If you disobey the rules, there are punishments for you, irrespective of who you are or where you come from. That must be embedded, not only when you are already grown up. It should have started from primary school. Now, the issue of us either coming back or not, you will see that the old aged story of the old man, when a child is trying to cut a tree in the bush, it's the old man who knows where that tree will fall. You will see that the PDP, we will come back very quickly, stabilize ourselves, and you think the other political parties are completely independent of this kind of quagmire?
All right,
no,
we will just pause for a while, and then, when we come back after the tweet, we'll now begin to look at, going forward for the PDP.
Right. So, yes. Other issues. Let's take reactions from our viewers who have sent in tweets. You can, of course, send some more through our Twitter handle. It's at NTAGMN. Jacob Lloyd tweets, the judgment yesterday has just put PDP back as an opposition. I'm happy for them. Let them put the ruling party on their toes now.
Absolutely.
PDP should try and reconcile with aggrieved members and push forward. There's Anambra election in November and Ekiti next year.
Clifford Agugwesi tweets, judgment reflects a Nigerian judiciary on an introspection and restoration path. It is a victory for democracy and opposition parties.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, the Supreme Court has given the PDP an opportunity to come out of the wilderness, but it will have no peace if there is no genuine reconciliation.
And SMB Johnson tweets, beyond the Supreme Court judgment, the PDP must restructure to provide robust opposition to safeguard Nigeria's democracy.
Obianuju tweets from Abuja. He says, one that crowned himself king will uncrown himself later. Thank God for the final judgment.
And Dele Jack Solomon tweets, now that the Apex Court has finally ruled, it's now imperative that the party leaders appeal to their aggrieved and skewed party members.
Mike Ayanko tweets, the Supreme Court verdict on the PDP is a victory for democracy in Nigeria. It is now incumbent on the leadership of the party to play a virile opposition.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, PDP should focus on reconciliation, re-energize their base, and stop putting their members through any more trauma than they've already endured. Like that. Johnson Solomon has this tweet, I'm very sure that the PDP as a party has gone through the refining fire of trial and has been finally refined. All right, through the smithy. Yes. That's those are the tweets that we have. Chief Body George, you can see all kinds of congratulatory messages from the tweets and authoritative messages as well, and some persons might say even saccharine aspirations. But one question that some observers have also tended to ask, to which there's been perhaps no satisfactory response. This crisis which the PDP has been through is probably the longest in its history since 1998. And the dramatists personnel are very well known. And the one question is, how did Sheriff come into the picture?
This is something that is internal for us, but we must educate the public, because in the long run, you must convince the public that you are a better party than the other one. Now, like I said, when Muazu left the party, by our constitution, he left as chairman. And because the chairmanship of the party was zoned to Northeast, you had to shop for somebody from that zone to finish his tenure. Now, the leaders from there met, recommended a few others, and the caucus met, and then the governors' forum also met and invited Sheriff. I won't go further into the details, but that's why I said everybody has learned a lesson. It happens. This is a lesson for us that no group should hijack the party. The party is structured. We should respect the structure of the party. That is the lesson we have learned. A lot of the board of trustee members who are the bastion of the party advised otherwise. That, look, this is a fresh man coming into the party. You can't do this. That took a bit of a lot of meetings, a lot of reconciliation. In the end, it was foisted because people thought, look, he's going to be there for a very short run. So let's allow him. Northeast will finish their tenure, and then we go for the convention. The parting shot was when we got to Port Harcourt. He wanted to continue. He took the form, filled the form, returned the form, and went for screening. At that point, by our own constitution, he has ceased to be chairman because he cannot go and animate the party in Port Harcourt while he's also contesting.
Okay.
So
I guess we get to move forward, really, Chief.
Yes.
Yes, because you already told us at the beginning that this was an internal matter to the PDP. So let me pose my question to Professor Gumbo. And in his reaction yesterday to the judgment, the Deputy Senate President said in words that I would like to take as probably the new mantra for the PDP, change the change is imminent. Is it really, Prof?
That depends on a number of factors. One, the ability of the PDP to recover from, self-inflicted injury. That's one. Two, it depends on the organizational capacity of the party. As it is now, like I've said earlier, that so many people are feeling, frustrated, disgruntled and all whatnot. And the task is on PDP to now prove to those people that have left the party how they are going to be treated. Is it the same thing they used to experience while in the party, or that PDP is now a born-again party? And then thirdly, again, don't forget that the ruling party is also strategizing. So the slogan of change is change is not an automatic one. It depends on their winning election in 2019 before they begin to think about change the change. And that is what they should have been doing right from 2015 to date. At least they should be strategizing. They should be articulating their campaign manifestos, and all that, so that at least in 2019 they have something to sell to Nigerians. They have issues that are worthy enough to attract, them electoral support of Nigerians. That they have not been doing. And between now and 2019, I don't think, again, when they start who should be where in 2019, in 2018 possibly, again, that could be another source of friction, intra-party friction within the party. And so, unless they purge themselves of this culture of impunity, this culture of rascality, and this culture of lack of party supremacy in the management of a political party such as PDP, I don't think that slogan may likely come to pass.
Professor Gumbo. Professor Gumbo, thank you very much. We will come back to you again just to indicate that we have tweets. We'll take the second set of tweets now, then continue with the conversation with our other guests here in the Abuja studios. Sunday Michael Omakoji tweets, the Supreme Court judgment is a pointer to the fact that our judiciary is beginning to make us believe in them one more time. Nigeria was moving towards a one-party state until the judgment yesterday. We believe this is healthy for our democracy.
And, well, I cannot read this, but Ado Latif, I hope, tweets, it's a sign that our judiciary is waking up to its duties.
SMB Johnson tweets, PDP must restructure the party machinery and leadership premised on integrity, nation building, and the spirit of democracy.
And this is an interesting one coming from Clifford Agoeguse. Says, we are waiting for the Supreme Court to be bold on cross-carpeting as it has demonstrated in the PDP judgment.
And Hassan Labran tweets, PDP should be prayerful or remain truthful to one another. If not, your party will still be pivoting the keg of gunpowder. I don't know what that means.
And Pastor Johnson Solomon tweets, PDP as a political party has gone through the refining fire. I think it's now time for reconciliation and healing of old wounds.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, Supreme Court judgment may not be able to turn back the losses of the PDP, and it will be tough for PDP to win elections in Nigeria without unity.
But Amasi Adamo tweets, opposition is a necessary ingredient to politics and will shape the country governance as the House is in order now.
And Idoku Jeffrey on tweets, I just pray this judgment will calm the raging storm of the party. And still we have another one there from Paul Shedrack. Paul Shadrach tweets that the judgment of the Apex Court is a sign of victory for Nigerians. I can't wait to see the umbrella back. PDP, put your house in order. It's ready season now.
Elijah Okooga tweets, I thank God for the fair judgment. This is a victory not only for PDP but also for Nigeria and our democracy. Long live Nigeria.
Comrade Tomore Abdul tweets, there should be no victor and no vanquished. It's a victory for democracy. All right.
Let's get back to the former senator here. We're talking about moving forward for the PDP. For several years, the PDP, has been, would I say, a very weak opposition. We haven't really seen much of the opposition coming from the PDP. Now that we're hearing change is imminent and all that, is it likely for the factions to come together to present a viral opposition?
Thank you very much. But this question coming to a wrong person because
yes, I know. I know why I directed
but
it to
I want to be fair to be a good Nigerian.
Yes.
All things being equal, if they can put their house in order, if the impunity would be a matter of the past, if they can forget about monetizing every process in PDP that I know, if there's going to be a primary election, even to pick their own candidate, you have to buy the delegates, you have to, at all cadre, from the local government to the zonal to the state, all money is spent in millions. That is not a good politics. If they can stop that and then allow people to make their choice based on not monetary consideration, maybe. And this goes to all other parties. And other things, I think I wouldn't like to advocate for whatever success they may succeed because I'm still a victim and I'm still angry because I wanted to be a good Nigerian and learn from our past leaders like Aminu Kano. Until he died, he never left PRP, like Sadona and the rest of them. And I wanted to emulate them. And even when I left the PDP, I stayed for 1 year until one of my people pulled me and said, look, majority of us are in APC, you must come back home. And the semblance of democracy
Did you move because the party had issues or you moved because you believed in ideology?
Both. One, the ideology of serving a talaka or a common man, it is not money that brought President Muhammadu Buhari. You must admit that. There are people who send their money 2 naira, 100 naira through telephone, and then they brought him. If it were money, President Buhari wouldn't have come. That is another thing. Number two, I believe that there was a semblance of democracy when they went to Lagos and elected their own party, Biara. Here in Abuja, everybody was caged, don't vote any other person, one person. President Jonathan, the former president, I respect him, he could have won, but nobody contested with him. Except one lady that was, you ladies gave her only 1 vote. That is not democracy.
Because the men didn't give her
that is not democracy.
You didn't give her the financial power, but let Chief
I just wanted, just before Chief comes in, that's a point that I would like Mr. Godwin Oboji to respond to. Look, some persons believe that the factional leadership crisis was merely an aggravation of the serious injury, almost fatal injury that the PDP had suffered after it lost the presidential election. That the party suddenly was in disarray. And indeed, I mean, we saw on this program there were various news reports about persons who were already jumping ship after the result of the presidential election was known. Now, if they are saying that the PDP is going to get back, it's going to be stronger, it's going to be this, change, and so on and so forth, we have also seen amongst Nigerian politicians that they always gravitate to that platform that is in power. And PDP, of course, used that for 16 years. So is it wishful thinking to assume that PDP, as they are beating their chest now on the basis of the Supreme Court decision, that, things might be much brighter for them, particularly from next year and then 2019?
There's no chest beat because before now, you really pointed out they have been in power for 16 years. Having been in power for 16 years, they still have structures on the ground and still have personnel that have the wherewithal to also sustain the political process. And more particularly, why you can confidently say the change mantra might be successful the way and manner the government is going, particularly the present government, though they are doing their bit, but a lot of, you must admit that a lot of people are disenchanted. States like Kogi State as APC, Benue State as APC, a lot of others like Imo State trying to abrogate pension to have it, are things that people are not really comfortable with. And then fundamentally, look at what happened in Osun State very recently, where what we complained of in PDP was trying to play out in APC. And in a speaker of less than 2 weeks, somebody left APC to PDP and won an election. Take note that that seat was held by APC. That seat was held by the elder brother of the same Adeleke. I was in APC. But because of the insistence of the governor saying, no, my party or my candidate must be the person, he went to PDP and won. I saw the Senate President weeping yesterday. He felt very bad that this went to PDP. So coming to your question now, the possibility is there because if we have a level playing ground, it will go beyond even parties, and that is why there are people now fighting for independent candidature. That it goes beyond the parties. It's the person that will deliver the deliverable to the masses that people will gravitate towards. So irrespective of the party, but persons that can deliver will be on board to serve the people. So if the PDP could capitalize on this process and remove the impunity that we are talking about, remove the confederation we are talking about, and let the people vote for who they think can deliver, then all your questions can be in the affirmative, in the positive, that parties, PDP can actually change the change, but it all depends on them.
Chief, we'll get back to you. Should the losing faction now spring up an alternative party, what happens?
That it won't work, because the point is not the alternative party. What are the structures? You have 40-something parties, as Kisley and other persons have said before now. But where are they apart from being in Abuja and maybe here and then the newspapers? So it's not you springing on that faction, but you must know something. The alternative party we're talking about is Sheriff Group. Which cloud did they have? The bulk of the PDP were in the maker. We can't close our eyes to that fact. There's nothing that the maker, a sheriff faction can do. One is not a grassroots PDP. He has been a politician, but he just came to PDP very, very recently. So which cloud does he have? Who apart from Hope Uzodinma and one or two persons in the House of Rep, who follow Sheriff?
Well, who follow Sheriff? Well, that's a rhetorical question. Chief, you've got the last say.
Now, let me be very, very factual here. Like I said, the founding fathers came up with a very brilliant concept for Nigeria, of our party. That concept of the 6 geopolitical zones, how did it come about? They had looked at the First Republic, you know, the majority in the north, the minority in the north, the majority in the south, the minority in the south. Nobody bothered about the minorities. Nobody. But when they came together, Chibolage from Southwest, Alex Ekweme from Southeast, Jimo Bodo, Papa Solomon La from Plateau, Surimi, and the old man Chiroma, just to mention a few, came together and thought, look, why don't we form? They were all against General Abacha contesting as the sole candidate for the all 5 political parties, if you remember. Now, when these
5 leprous fingers.
That's what that was the way the late Chibolage described it. But when they came, these were people who would never be under the same roof for any political discussion. But they came together because of this country, the love they have for Nigeria. And I don't want people to lose the sight of where did PDP come from. They now came up with these 6 geopolitical zones. Northwest, northeast, north central, southwest, southeast, south. You know, we don't have that.
I'm sorry, Chibode George, just we are pressed for time. Now, let's get this historically correct. It was actually Dr. Alex Ekweme at the Constitutional Conference of Abacha, 1994 to 1995, that made the proposition for the 6 geopolitical zones before the formation of the PDP.
What I'm saying is this. If he made it at the National Constitutional Conference, is it in our national constitution?
But it was an idea.
No, it was I'm not talking about the idea. Yeah. The point was, all these people came together. If one man could sell that idea to them, it became accepted. And it is embedded in our own national constitution. That's the PDP constitution. And that has helped democracy for the last 16 years. You know, look back into history too. No time had we been able to rule without any interruption. Now, having done that, it means there are 6 topmost positions in the land. To go further, that these 6 top positions, each zone will have one.
Chief, I'm afraid I have to quickly now tell us, what would you now do moving forward to present as a very opposition? Just in less than a minute, sir.
Okay. It's a pity that you... But the point is this. If you have to look back into our history and know where we are coming from. We are not just a congregation of string bedfellows. We have the tenets. The taproot of our party is strong and is embedded. How did we win the election in Osun State? Because the people, party people, Adeleke also, like he was discouraged and left. The late Adeleke, he was a senator of our party, left for the APC because he was disgruntled about the process of the governorship candidature. And then when he died, his brother came back to the party because he saw a worse scenario in the APC. And we welcomed him, and he went for the election, and he won. So it's not a matter of doubting. You know, you take a child who is just born today, and you take another one who is 16 years old, who will be a bit wiser?
All right, Chief Bode George, thank you very much. Professor Gumbo, let's get your closing thoughts on this. The question I posed to Godwin Obuji earlier, I'm going to also pose a question to you. Considering, as some people say, the somewhat shifting nature of politicians in shopping for platforms, namely political parties, is there any likelihood that the PDP can coalesce sufficiently and be a strong force going forward after the Supreme Court decision?
That is the most critical task for the party at this time, because, like I said earlier, PDP should have been doing what I call critical self-examination. Where did we get it wrong? How did we lose to the opposition? Bode George's statement that, look, somebody who was 16-year-old and then 3-year or whatever, I don't think that should count in this case. 16 years older person may just be without any useful experience. All the experiences may not be that useful. And like what happened in 2015, if those 16 years, you know, were to work for PDP, I thought the opposition party that just came together, you know, to give back to APC shouldn't have, you know, displaced and replaced PDP at the federal level. It's quite unfortunate that I think they mismanaged, you know, the situation, and they kept deceiving themselves with this slogan, the biggest party in Africa. Now the task is, how do you now rebuild the crippled giant? How do you bring up the crippled giant back to life in a way that at least PDP will once more think of taking over power at the federal level in 2019. I thought they should be looking at what the policies of this current government, and then be taking notes, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, so that in 2019, at least they can have a credible, you know, platform to now convince Nigerians that, look, we have seen where we got it wrong in 2015. Now we are coming back as a rebranded party, a party with a new vision for Nigerians, a party that has redefined the philosophy of, you know, governance. And so I thought that is what they should have been doing, and not fighting themselves up to this point.
Aldo Bako, Professor of Political Science, University of Jos, thank you very much for your contribution this morning.
Welcome, thank you.
All right, we'd also like to appreciate our friend here, Mr. Godwin Sunday Obuji, a public affairs analyst. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And distinguished Senator Abubakar Sedangi, former Senator of the Federal Republic, and of course a lawyer. Many thanks to you.
My pleasure.
And Chief Olabode George, who of course was the Deputy National Chairman of the PDP and a member of the Board of Trustees. Thank you very much. Kingsley just said PDP reloading. So,
no, well, that's the summary of what the exhortation by Professor Gumbo. All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now.
The Future Assured project of the wife of the president, Aisha Muhammad Buhari, is carrying out free medical screening and distribution of food items at various IDP camps while ensuring the economic empowerment of women through training and skill acquisition. In recognition of her efforts, wives of governors have lent their voices and support.
In Kogi State, we feel the impact of Future Assured, especially women and children.
The Future Assured program of Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, the wife of the president, has been very assuring and still reassuring in Sokoto State. It has impacted positively in the areas of humanity, especially women and children.
Supports the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
Admission forms for the 2017-2018 academic session of NTA Television College JAWS into its diploma programs are now on sale. The diploma programs are in film and TV production, broadcast journalism, and TV engineering technology. Applicants are required to have at least 5 credits, including English language and mathematics at SSC, NECO, or GCO levels in not more than 1 sitting. Application forms can be obtained from the TV College Refi JAWS or at any NTA zonal centers nationwide on payment of a no-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA Television College. Completed application forms should be returned to the Office of the Academic Secretary, NTA Television College, or the Center of Purchase on or before 28th of July 2017. For further inquiries, please call 08069809807 or call 07036607155. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
All right, let's move on now to sports. And 10-man Rivers United defeats MFM FC in a rescheduled week 28 match in the NPFL. And in tennis, Morris bid to defend Wimbledon ends as Federer advances to the semi-finals. We now join our sports desk for details of all the stories.